Greetings travelers, and today, let's find out how much gold we can make while leveling in Mists of Pandaria. And I've been hearing all kinds of things. The MoP token is way cheaper than the retail token, which, if we look at the current NA prices, it's hard to argue with. The MoP token is around 37,000 to 42,000 gold, whereas the retail token is 320 to 360,000 gold. So the question is, on our journey, will we be able to find some farms that make this efficient, or will our gold per hour be lower, like the price of the token? Now, I don't have any characters on MoP Classic at the moment, so this challenge is starting from 0 at level 1. No mains, no handouts, just some good old-fashioned leveling. So as we get Malnark, our Orc Warlock, into the world and starting the Valley of Trials, let's talk about how we're going to do this. So we will be unrestricted leveling from levels 1 to 60. We can quest, we can dungeon, we can group, and we can use the auction house without restrictions. Nobody knows who this tune is, so there's no worries about auction house snipes. And I want to see, while leveling relatively normally, how much gold we can juice out of Mists of Pandaria. And maybe, before we hit 60, we'll walk away with a WoW token. Let's get after it. Alright, so at this point in Malnark's journey, we really don't have much to our name, no professions or bags or not even a single copper, so we aren't going to be making any substantially crazy moves. But we can take down our first boars for the classic quests and start stacking up some copper, because we're going to need a baseline of gold for our auctions. And being level 4 by the way. And it wouldn't be a Valley of Trials start without waking up some lazy peons, but I guess that the quest goers have really kicked these guys into high gear because I simply can't find any sleeping peons to get this quest done. But that's okay. This isn't a speed run. We can level at our own pace, but for the sake of research, I won't be doing lower level farms that grant me 0 XP. We have to at least be getting some good leveling while hopefully making some gold and advancing the character. And I haven't played Horde side in a while, so this is indeed a breath of fresh air. And with Sarkoth's mangled claw in the bags, not to mention Yarog Bane Shadows taken out of the Burning Blade Coven, we're rapidly approaching Durotar, the antithesis of Elven. And travelers, well, I'm excited. And as we leave the Valley of Trials, we're rocking a solid 11 silver and 66 copper. It's not nothing. That does mean we would have to do the Valley of Trials 317,000 times to afford a WoW token. So on to Sen'jin Village it is. And what better way than training some herbalism to be used while we quest. Our pal Mashiki can get us going on the herbalism front, but we might be a little tight on bags. Luckily for us, Sen'jin Village does have some general goods vendors, one of which is K-Wall, who will gladly sell us a small brown pouch for 4 silver and 25 copper. Kinda steep with our current stack, but we're gonna need it. And I'm not exactly a Horde pro, and I looked around Sen'jin Village for a while for a mining trainer, but I'm convinced there isn't one, so we'll just go with herbalism for now. So off to questing. Get some nodes and get some XP. Nice, level 6. I guess 1/10 of the way there, right? But luckily Warlocks are pretty darn strong in leveling, so we can take down these early levels pretty quickly because we want to at least get the Orgrimmar to get going on the auction house. So with that in mind, we're quickly on to Razor Hill, which does offer us some trick-or-treating. Yep, this character was started during Hollow's End. And of course, we can always stop at the Razor Hill mining trainer, so now we actually do have dual gathering, which I think is going to be the move while leveling. And with those checkboxes matched, we can slowly tick off the Durotar starting quests with our eyes on the minimap for copper ore and silverleaf. And while doing these quests, it's good to keep an eye out for the different types of loots that the targets are dropping. For example, the humanoids might drop some valuable cloth that we could farm for a few minutes, or the elementals could drop some trade goods. And for this, I'm using TradeSkillMaster to get live price data, so if we come across something valuable, we can test it. But, travelers, in Durotar, all roads lead north, to the Horde capital of Orgrimmar. And for us, well, we have a growing supply of trade goods in our bag because that's begging to be listed on the auction house. Just like that, travelers, we're level 9 and walking into Orgrimmar for the first time, with 40 silver to our name. And as an Alliance main, well, it feels like I'm breaking some rules here. But rest assured, I know exactly where the auction house is in the Valley of Strength. At the moment, we have 28 copper ore to list, which has some solid prices between 1 gold and 1 gold 50 silver. These are certainly higher prices than you see in Classic Anniversary. So we can list these and hope for some quick influx of gold. Herbs seem to be priced lower, with Silverleaf going for around 25 silver each, and Earthroot at 10 silver, and Peace Bloom more like 30. Hopefully we can get these sold quickly while gathering some more to get started on the flipping aspect of this challenge. Because there's nothing more min-max than doing quests and gathering while selling auction flips in the background. Now, before we jump full speed into the gold grind, a quick word from today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. And I'm sure most of you know what a VPN is, but in short, it's a virtual private network. Think of it as a secure tunnel between your device and the internet, shielding your activity from internet service providers, hackers, and just anyone snooping on public Wi-Fi. Now, the main reasons to use ExpressVPN: privacy, security, and access. For me, the security is a big one, especially when I'm on public Wi-Fi. So if I'm traveling, sitting at an airport, or even at McDonald's making some early morning auction house posts, connecting to my WoW account on open network could leave me exposed to potential hackers looking for my gold. But with ExpressVPN, I don't have to worry, and that's time I'd rather spend making gold. Now, the other big reason is access, and streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus have different libraries depending on your country. And being in Canada, our options can be pretty limited compared to the US. But ExpressVPN lets me change my IP address so I can access those shows as if I was browsing from anywhere in the world. So, if you want to try it out, head to expressvpn.com/Pathalerix or scan the QR code on screen. You'll even get up to 4 extra months free using my links. So huge thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's challenge. And now, let's get back into some gold. I can already see some of our copper ore ticking off on sales, but albeit, we don't have a mount yet, which leaves us free to return to leveling, and at this point, it is centered around questing. We're tasked with cleaning up Thunder Ridge from some of the drowned thunder lizards at the bottom of the ravine. But not long after doing a few quests in Durotar, Varrock sends us straight back to Orgrimmar for a quest. And with that, ding level 10, which unlocks talents, and I very well may change this later, but I'm gonna go with Affliction for leveling. That dot tagging and AoE dot potential is just so solid for mob grinding in case we do find a decent area to farm, with good spawns and good loot. So with Affliction locked in, we have UA and a dream. And that dream right now involves us being sent to the Northern Barrens. And I'm sure some of you Horde-side travelers will have some solid nostalgia in this area. We're making some good progress towards leveling up, but so far, we haven't made much gold. So let's crush out a few quests here with our reintroduction to the Razormane Squeal, very different to the Elwyn Murloc call, and there we go, ding level 12. And we've also unlocked our Voidwalker companion, Velgarth, which is very good for clearing mobs fastly on a Warlock. And with a little bit more questing under the belt, let's head back to Org to check on the auctions and see how we did. Okay, travelers, the first auction house reveal of the challenge. What do we have? Well, it looks like some of the copper ore has sold. Well, all 28 actually, as well as some rough stone, which gives us 27 gold to work with. So we can check on TradeSkillMaster great deals. And if you watch the Double Down challenge, I did use this TSM Great Deals feature a lot. However, there seems to be an issue on MoP Classic where a bunch of items are flagged with fake value, which makes the whole Great Deals search a bunch of items listed at 0% to 1% of their value, but it is fake value, and they have no chance for selling at 100%. And this just clogs up the entire search. All the queries are not actually valuable. So, we're going to need a different angle for auction house flips, and for this, I am going to break out some custom groups for searching to try to find some good deals with a little more manual legwork, but more on that later. For now, with low gold, I do want to stick to trade goods to flip. These are cheap and should resell pretty quick to give us a good influx of gold, so I'm sorting by my trade goods groups. And these Khadgar's whiskers do jump out. So there's 3 posted at 7 silver, 59 copper, which is 19% of the recent market value. And if we look here, the next highest priced ones are 19 silver, 24 copper, or 49% of the market value. So this should be a pretty easy, low risk flip. Purchase a 3 and relist for 2.5 times the price. And albeit, this isn't a massive cashed flip, but this is the entire idea behind flipping. And it's this theory applied over and over with more and more mats that lets us put our gathering gold to use. And now, these blood shrimp are jumping out at me as well. There are quite a few listed well below market value at 33%, the next ones being way overpriced. And I can snag all 73 low-priced ones for a total of 1 gold, 63 silver. And we should be able to sell this for 3 times as much, or about 4 gold 50, so not bad at all. And it's the same story for these spinefish. Spinefish are actually a current content Mists of Pandaria material, so they should sell pretty quick. And there's 9 available for 39% of market value. And I think if we pick them up, we should be able to sell them for 2 gold each or so. So a pretty solid use of our limited capital here. And those are a few of the key snipes, and because we're doing a lot of this in the background, I won't show all of the trade good flips we're doing, but as we get a larger and larger cash stack, we can start to make bigger and bigger moves to reset markets more towards 100% value and buy larger bulk items that we can flip, but those larger items tend to be lower percentage profits. Whereas now, we're kind of stuck sniping the low price few that we can afford to repost them. but in the bags. And actually, a few sales coming through. And now that we have our entire copper ore sales reinvested, it should hopefully be working with us to make even more gold. Actually, real quick, with our new auction gold, I did find these Pandarian garnets that are listed for so low, so I'll grab these as well and try to flip them too. And while we wait for these to sell, I guess it's a perfect time to take my dog for a walk. And with that, we're back. And time to do some undercut scans because, well, you can have the best flips in the world, but if we're not the lowest in the auction house, well, our sales aren't going to come through very quickly. And look at this. It looks to be the rest of our trade goods from leveling and gathering here. Even more capital is always good news. And we can see in our TradeSkillMaster ledger, our resale ledger, and this is going to give us a running tally of our flipping only profit and loss. So we can tease it out from our actual gathering income, which should be cool to see as we go. Interested to see if we get more from gathering while leveling or from flipping while leveling. So far, 16 gold profit from flipping. So we'll reinvest some of the trade goods, but I want to dabble in a new market, battle pets. And that's because battle pets were released with Mists of Pandaria. And some are best in slot for battles, and sometimes people will list a level 25 battle pet for level 1 prices. A very retail thing to do. Which, on Mists of Pandaria Classic, where there's no easy way to level pets, will be an instant snipe from us. But let's see what we can get. And first up, this Porca pet looks pretty well priced. 14 gold with the market sitting around 31 gold, so we can grab it to resell. Same thing with this Jade Crane chick, priced at about 43% market, below a whole bunch of 79%ers. So this should be a quick 11 to 20 gold flip. So we buy into it. And okay, check this one out. This is a terrible turnip, posted for 2% market. But why is that? Well, it says it's level 25, which means it should be posted for a whole lot more, probably hundreds of gold more. So before any other gold goblin sees this, I'm gonna snag this level 25 battle pet for 12 gold. And I'm also seeing this the level 1 for 6 gold, which we should be able to flip to 12 gold, which is a reasonable price for level 1 pet. So here's our stock of reinvestments. We have some trade goods and a few battle pets, and I'm thinking the level 25 one should make us some pretty good gold. And let's get these relisted. As you can see, my selling operations are relisting the level 25 turnip at 760 gold, which is apparently the normal price for level 25 one. Let's see if this sells, and at the moment, I'm cruising on other challenges on WoW, so for now, I'm just going to leave this tune at the auction house for some reposts, undercut scans, and flips every now and then. In a few days, hopefully we can get on and get some more levels. Alright, already a few more sales coming through. Those Pandarian garnets have moved, but also a lot of undercuts and expired auctions, which is alright. A quick little repost and rescan. I won't show you all of this because it does get a little bit redundant, but after a few more sales come through, we're sitting at 156 gold. So really not bad, but these small 6-slot bags aren't going to cut it for long. So our next investment is going to be netherweave bags. That is satisfying, and plenty of room for activities. And those activities, a few more successful flips, and a solid ghost iron bar investment. And we're suddenly all the way up to 374 gold. Time to reinvest. And check this out. Someone posted level 25 Void Collar for 60 gold. A classic level 1 versus 25 pricing mistake, because the next one at level 25 is actually listed for 1500 gold. And that means we buy it out. And with these reposted, we finally have some time to get out and gather and get some XP. And at this point, before we get a mount, I am curious how effective simple gathering is on foot, dual gathering with mining and herb. So we're in Durotar, and I'll run a big loop to see how long it takes us, and what kind of material yield we'll get. And when I say a big long loop, that's exactly what I mean. We're literally just going to be doing a solid loop of this whole zone. And before we can get to the results, check this out. Not even 5 minutes into our farming run, we get a notification. Your auction of Lesser Void Collar has sold for 1500 gold. Yep, that's the one we purchased for 60 gold literally a few minutes ago. And so far, this one definitely takes the cake for the best flip, and we haven't even hit level 15 yet. If we can keep sniping these level 25 battle pets, we're going to have a good time. Okay, but what about the results from the Durotar loop? Well, in Mists of Pandaria, you actually get XP from gathering, so we're still progressing the level, and a full loop from org to org took us 34 minutes, and we got 93 copper ore, which have a pretty solid market value of about 1 gold 43 silver at the moment, so 132 gold from copper ore. And for herbs, we got 22 silver leaf, 11 gold, 29 peace bloom, 11 more gold, and 24 earth root, 6 more gold, plus some odds and ends from linen and gems that add up to about 15 gold. The linen we got from mobs that attacked us when we were trying to get herbs. So that gives us a grand total dual gathering of 170 gold in only 34 minutes, which honestly is much better than I expected for a starting zone. If we extrapolate that out to gold per hour, that's about 314 gold per hour. And with a token around 38,000 gold, that's only a 120-hour grind for a WoW token. I mean, I'm sure we'll find better, but that is on pace or better than Elwyn in retail currency. Anyways, we also hit level 15 while gathering because herbs and ores give you XP in MoP. Once they go gray, they give you less and less. So anyways, level 15 does unlock the dungeon finder, so let's capitalize on that and run one. But while we wait for the queue, we can relist and receive our oh so nice 1,500 gold in the mail, minus auction house fees of course. And queue pop. Looks like it's Ragefire Chasm. Now you may be thinking, if you're trying to see how much gold you can make while leveling, wouldn't you just only level by gathering and auction house flipping? For an absolute max, yeah, technically, I would just stay at level 1 and flip to gold cap over time. But this challenge is also about enjoying the leveling process. So I'll be trying to level fairly efficiently as well, which means getting the random dungeon bonus and trying to do the dungeon quests for almost every dungeon I can while leveling. Plus, the higher levels we get, it should theoretically unlock higher level zones that we can gather and farm in. So we could unlock higher gold per hour farms. Plus, we have a decent chance at getting BOEs that could sell quite well from these dungeons. And plenty of cloth. So the dungeons are both a good change of pace, but also great XP and could provide us some gold to pad the coffers. Alright, RFC in the books. Plenty of XP, ding 16 by the way. And I'll keep stopping by the auction house to repost and scan, but for now, we do need to get back out into Azeroth and get some more levels under our belt. Which unfortunately means some of the classic Baron's quest mobs stand no chance. These Sahavra hooves, gone. Savannah huntresses, goodbye. And the Razormane populations are seriously dwindling, as they should. And while stopping here at the crossroads for a decent quest hand-in, I figured we may as well see what the trade vendors have here. I don't think vendor flips are as strong in MoP as they are in Classic with inflation, but there looks to be a few items here that could be resold for a few gold. So I'll grab some dyes, some salts, parchments, and of course, a good chunk of weak flux. We can see if any of these end up moving for decent profits. And here we go. Before we know it, we're collecting fungal spores around the Forgotten Pools. These are some seriously iconic horde quests, and you got to appreciate the two factions' nostalgic aspects. This one, for horde side, is a serious core memory for me. And this was a good bout of questing. But let's fly back to Org, because we're nearly level 18, with a decent stockpile of herbs, ores, trade goods, and vendor flips. While we're flying, let's check out the TSM graph. So our resale right now is saying we have a 473 gold resale profit on flipping. And I don't know why, but it doesn't have our big 1.5k sale in there of the Void Collar. Oh well, I guess it is on the basic sale page, but not sure why it isn't there. Either way, lots of battle pets and trade goods turning out to a 473 gold profit so far. Of course, a lot of that gold is getting reinvested into new flips. So I just hope we can keep scaling and reinvesting efficiently. And in real time here is the next day, and we can start the morning off with some nice Wailing Caverns. Luckily, I already had the quest to go here, so we can just pick up the dungeon quests and have a good time with our group. Of course, it isn't Wailing Caverns if the jump doesn't scare the bejesus out of you. We made it though. And the end of the dungeon also hits us to level 19. We're cruising. And I don't know if this is a good idea, but we're back at the auction house and these pocket reavers are level 25 and selling for 500 gold. Now that is a good chunk of change for our stack, but I think we can get at least 1,000 each for these. Now it's risky, but I'm going to invest the gold into both of them to hopefully sell them during this challenge. Things like this can let our gold work for us while we're out questing and dungeoning, but to be fair, it is a risk. And now, our Baron's quests are moving us northern into Ashenvale, which is a zone that I haven't quested in quite some time. So you can say I'm pretty excited. And it looks like some Ashenvale warriors are attacking the borders, and well, we're having none of it. So we can keep questing, getting XP, queuing dungeons, and of course, dual gathering. And remember, all the time we're out here, our flips are doing their thing on the auction house. And ding 20, which means big milestone for the character here. We get our mount. One reason we did go Warlock is there is a gold saving aspect. We get an instant free mount because we have the class mount, no training, and no buying a mount from the vendor. So check out the Felt Charger. Heck yeah. And this should speed up both questing and gathering routes, which is a good place to log out for the night, I think. And good morning. Back at it with a mailbox opening. We of course have a lot of our gold invested, and we have 311 coming back. Excellent. Just in time to put that to work for some more flips. Now, with our levels increasing, we are level 20, and it's got me thinking. We're still in the XP range for Ragefire Chasm, but we're strong enough that we could maybe solo it. This would give us all of the cloth, all of the loot, and all of the BOEs, so it could be a decent gold farm, and we would still be getting decent XP from it, I think. So let's go test it out. And with our Voidwalker, we can indeed take out the packs of 1 inch pretty easily, not bad, and we are getting some cloth and some loot, of course a few BOE drops. And the nice thing about Warlock is I can use Health Funnel to basically heal my pet while he tanks, but this mob of 3, let's see if we can even do it. I'm not really sure about bosses at this point. Our dots do seem to be working pretty well, but Belgarth is getting pretty low. Yeah, so 3 mobs might be the limit here. Well, I think we're going to have to leave this farming method away for now. We're just not quite strong enough to have it work, and if we level up anymore, we're going to be out of the XP range and kind of outside the scope of our challenge today. Which just means, for now, we're going to baby the auction house and queue for some dungeons. Doing the first run of each is really solid, and we can take off both Stormwind Stockades and Shadowfang Keep. Plenty of good XP and quests there. Now, one thing I just found is that some of the smelting crafts for mining, like smelting bronze, copper, and silver, seem to be relatively profitable. About 40 to 60 silver per cast. So now I'm thinking, let's buy out some of these ores to craft them up, which would actually give us a few mining levels, but could potentially give us about a 15 to 20% return on capital. And actually, the bronze is a double markup, because we can both buy the raw copper ore, smelt into bars, which bars we can then combine with tin bars for bronze bars. So it's a double craft and a double profit. Pretty solid little shuffle. And we do have to be careful here with some of the old world materials like copper and tin, because in MoP, they're mostly only used for leveling up professions and really might not sell that consistently. We have to at least give it a try. We can't sit here all day because, well, we gotta hit 60 at some point. But this gives us a nice little AFK farm, which we can use during dungeon queues or if we have to go grab a quick snack. Alright, and straight away, some of these bars and some other trade good flips are doing pretty well, and we have an 800 gold mailbox for it. And as you can see, I took the liberty of doing a good stock of copper as well. Gotta work what's working, travelers. So I've been scouting around Orgrimmar for some potential trade good vendor flips when I came across Geralt, the guild tabard vendor. Which reminds me, heirlooms are available in MoP Classic through a few means, with the cape, helm, and legs available through the guild vendor for just straight up gold. And heirlooms give us a few things. First, the items would scale with us for quality of life and more damage, but second, they would increase our experience gains up to 25%, which would speed up the grind to higher level zones. And hopefully, more XP and more gold in those zones. But they are gated behind guild reputation and just straight up gold. So, we need to get revered with our guild to get all 3. Plus, the total gold cost for them is about 4.5 thousand. First and foremost, we need to find a guild, and then figure out how to get rep with them. So into the looking for guild channels we go. And here we go. We're invited to join Spinal Tap 2, which, shout out to the Guildmaster Ragefest. It was a great little community, and he even offered me some fresh bags when I joined. Of course, we already had that sorted, but a very nice little community. Really made the challenge feel homey. And of course, we purchased the renowned guild tabard to make our rep grind 100% faster. And after some sleuthing, it turns out just questing is kind of the best way to get rep with the guild. So off we go, into Ashenvale to get some rep. But rather unfortunately, our dungeon grinding left it so our herbalism was under-leveled and we couldn't get all of the herbs that were spawning in Ashenvale. So to not let it continue to fall behind, we do have to go back and do some grinding in the Barrens. Oh well, I suppose it's just more gold along the way. And ultimately, Ashenvale leads our quests into Stone Talon Mountains, and Stone Talon Mountains gives us enough guild rep for friendly with the guild, which is the tier to purchase the heirloom back piece. So let's hearth back to Crossroads, fly to Org for that fresh piece of kit. And the cape alone only gives us a 5% boost to XP, but it does cost over 1,000 gold. And, well, we're a little bit low on gold. But I've been saving up a decently sized mailbox opening. So let's check it out. Yup, our copper bars have sold. And it also looks like some Serpent's Eye flips have paid off. We do have our auctioning operation set, so they only list them at a profit. So all this is in the green. Now let's get that into the bags for our next purchases. And awesome. The heirloom cape obtained. Is it worth 1,000 gold? Maybe not, but I think getting some heirlooms while leveling is just pretty cool. Back in the day, I only had these on my alts once my main hit max and farmed gold, but the next heirloom is blocked behind Honored Rep with the guild, so a bit more questing before we can get that one as well. Alright travelers, in real life, this weekend I have some time to get some serious leveling done on this dude, so let's lock in and get after it. We're at the point in the challenge, new herbs and new ores in Ashenvale and Stone Talon really aren't worth much more than copper ore and peace bloom, so I think our best bet is to speed level a little bit to unlock higher zones and just keep flipping in the background. So let's get after it. First up, let's clear up the auction house and see what we got rolling. Nice. One of those pocket reavers that we bought way back for 500 gold actually sold for 949, which is good to see. And while I jump back into the auction house, let's talk a little bit more about the TradeSkillMaster groups I'm using. Since the Great Deals search wasn't working, I actually just updated my TradeSkillMaster profile with the purchasing groups and selling operations from Gold Capped. Basically, they're groups that you can search individually and it shows the percentage price, highlighting the lower priced ones. And I've been sticking to mostly the battle pets and MoP trade goods. And then the selling operations just keep a record of my average purchase price, so it knows when I sell it to only sell at a profit, accounting for auction fees and auction cut. But if someone decides to undercut by a ton, it'll just repost higher and wait for a market reset. I thought I would mention it because I'm using it so heavily in this challenge, and I will link it below, so if you want to check it out, but otherwise, you can do this just with basic searches, it just takes a lot longer. Alright, now let's hit the gas on the leveling. Cue the montage. And with that, we officially leveled up our guild rep to Revered and hit level 32. So let's head back to Org to get those heirlooms. Now that we have both helm and legs available from the guild vendor, the total cost of those two is about 2.8k, and with the 1k from our cape, that's nearly 4k invested in heirlooms, or 1/10 the price of a WoW token. I hope I don't regret this. But look at this. With the full triple threat, we have plus 25% experience gain. This should help us blast into some higher level zones and get rolling towards level 60. And I must say, I don't know if I've seen a fully natty level 32 with heirlooms, so let's go. Now there is a specific farm that I want to try, but I think we're going to need at least level 36 for it. So let's get after that with these heirlooms. And while we're in dungeons like Mara or RFK, we also want to make sure we're looting for cloth and gathering all the herbs and ore we can find. Sometimes, these dungeons have even higher densities of herbs and ores than we can find in the open world, which is definitely a plus. Not to mention, chances at BOE greens or the Slayer's Cap that we can just straight up sell in the auction house. And ding level 36, by the way. And the next leveling and gold farming technique I want to do is actually down in Thousand Needles out by Westreach Summit, which, if you haven't been here post-Kata, it's actually pretty darn annoying to get to. A little bit of swimming, but once we're here, we can grab the flight path to avoid such delays in the future. And the mobs we want are the Grim Totem Pillagers. They're level 39 to 40 mobs, so at 36 we are a little bit under-leveled, but they're fighting friendly NPCs here, which can help with tanking some damage and dealing some damage. Plus, they're on a forced spawn, so no matter how many you kill, there's always some up. And they drop cloth, lots of it. So that's what we're farming them for. Cloth drops and XP. Specifically silk cloth. That's why I want to do this farm. From what I can tell, silk cloth is the most expensive cloth from 1 to 60 on MoP right now. These guys also drop mage weave, which is worth a little less, but it doesn't drop as much either. And at our current level, I guess we need to take them a little more carefully, so no massive AoE pulling yet, I suppose. But with this in mind, I'm going to farm these guys for about an hour and see what I can net. And I also downloaded XP Tracker, which I think might be neat to compare some of the XP per hour and gold per hour of some of the base farming methods. So at level 36, at this spot, we were able to get around 81,000 XP per hour, which is pretty solid. And it's about 1.4 levels per hour, since our current XP bar is about 50k. Now, straight up dungeon spamming would likely be faster, but this is a cool one. And how much cloth did we actually pull in the hour? Well, we got 97 silk cloth, and at a market value averaging around 3 gold, that's 291 gold from silk cloth. Plus, we also got 14 mage weave, and at 1 gold, 46 silver each, an additional 20.44 gold. But that isn't all. There's no open world loot bugs in MoP, and we got 6 BOEs. Who knows how fast these will sell, but the values add up to 205 gold. They're pretty much all in the range of 20 to 40 gold, and would likely be used as leveling upgrades, or maybe even transmog. So, we will list them. Basically, it's 310 steady gold per hour, and 205 gold in transmog, for a total of 510 gold per hour. Not bad. Theoretically, about a 73-hour farm for a MoP token. But speaking about the token, these things are swinging in price like crazy. I've seen them as low as 36k on MoP, and as high as 42k recently. They are wildly variable, so if we do buy one, we'll want to try to snag it low. But this farm was done while we were kind of under leveled, so I'll plan to come back here once we're a higher level than the mobs, so that we can chain pull an AoE to see what kind of gold per hour we can get. Until then, let's do some dungeons and farm this in between queues. Of course, checking back to the auction house for reposts as usual. Now, I'm gonna be honest. For the next few levels and few hours here, I just went full degen mode, queued dungeons, farmed cloth, and reposted auctions, and it was amazing. The dungeon spam in a weird way was very nostalgic to my MoP and Kata days of leveling way back in the day. Definitely a different way of leveling than Classic with the dungeon queues, but it was still some good fun. And after that good session, we have some solid movement on the auctions. Lots of gold coming in, an additional 3.9k in the mailbox. And lots of goods. Some larger resets on MoP items like scallions, and even a Mulgore hatchling selling for 1.8k. Very solid action indeed. Those undercut scans have been paying off. But let's get this into the bags so we can reinvest it, and get back out there for some leveling and farming. So now, the tally is up to 4,000 gold in the bags, which is 10% of a WoW token, but to be fair, we do have a solid stock of reinvestments on the auction house, and we do have 4,000 gold worth of heirlooms equipped. So for a leveling tune, I'd say we're doing pretty solid. And with some decent success, we can head back to the dungeons, because I want to hit level 45 before I try the silk farm again, both for the level advantage, but also because level 45, we get a very specific warlock talent that is just amazing for farming. There we go, back to 1,000 needles. And I actually got a little carried away in level 46, but the talent that we wanted was Soul Link. This both reduces the damage we take, but gives ourselves a 3% lifesteal to heal ourselves and our pet, which means we can focus more on AoE dotting for max damage and try to sustain through pure DPS. This should definitely increase our rates, because we can pull more and pull faster. Compared to our level 35, 36 attempt here, the 10 extra levels do make a big difference. We can pull much larger, however, since we're a higher level than the mobs, the experience per hour was much lower. For only a 15-minute test, we got 63 silk cloth, which would give us 252 cloth per hour. At 3 gold per cloth, that's 756 gold from just silk, plus any other BOEs we get. Since it's pretty much negligible XP at this point, I'm not going to sit here and get 4-hour levels just for the gold per hour, because we have to keep leveling and get some real XP. But if you're a high level on MoP, this might not be a terrible farm. And speaking of leveling, I want to get going in Fellwood, because this zone has a very solid herb and ore density matched with an equally solid quest density. So it should give us some good gold and good experience, which is exactly what we're all about in this challenge. But with our silk farming and dungeon farming, our herb and mining has fallen substantially behind our zone level again, because we need about 280 herbalism to effectively farm Fellwood, and we're sitting at 150. So let's go to Org to train, and then get some dual gathering farms in lower level zones to level up our skill to match with us. So for levels 150 to 225, we're going to do Feralis. This is an amazing classic zone for density of ore and herb, and it lends itself to a solid route. Now, in classic versions of WoW, it does take a while to level up these skills, so I'm going to go ahead and do an hour of this loop to see what skill level we get to, and of course, how much gold we manage to pull in. This is the general route I'm doing, although the density here is so solid that you can pretty much just run around aimlessly and stick to the edges if you want more ore, and stick to the center if you want more herbs. After an hour, what do we get? Well, actually a decent chunk of XP, about 5 bars worth just for gathering, and the loot, oh boy. The standout was for sure iron ore, which we got 138 for a total value of 300 gold. We also got 148 heavy stone, 8 mithril, and 12 solid stone, plus some other gold which adds about 100 gold extra value on the miscellaneous ore. Of course, some gems and some cloth as well. We'll add this all into the total. And, oh, a quick rare spawn, let me just tag this for some fast XP, and onto the herbs. Not as much, but we got 16 gold thorn, that's about 83 gold, 18 king's blood, worth about 27 gold, and 81 fade leaf, worth about 39 gold, 45 Khadgar's whiskers, worth about 20 gold. Now, the ore is definitely pulling more of the weight here, but that gives us a total steady gold value of 654 gold per hour. Not bad for a catch-up level zone. And since I'm at 221 herb from that hour, I'm going to quickly finish off the 225 skill before training, and we can get after our next herb leveling zone, 1000 needles. Unfortunately, we have to make our way from Westreach Summit to Twilight Bulwarks to get on the ridge, which, again, is a pretty slow swim. But once we're up here, we can stick to the ridge and farm sungrass and mithril ore. Spending some time here should get us to a point where we can herb and ore in Felwood. And our mining and herb should be caught up with our level finally. Except sungrass requires level 230 to get, and we're 225. So we have to go back down to the bottom to gather life root, get to 230, and then come back up. But now that we're back up, after 31 minutes of farming, we got 94 sungrass, which is worth a total of 94 gold. We also got some gems worth about 7, and 44 mithril ore worth about 122 gold. Then, less frequently, we got 8 iron ore, and some solid stone. There was also some mobs in the way, so we got some BOEs, but the raw material for 31 minutes was 245 gold, which works out to a raw gold per hour of 490. Not blazing, but something we had to do to level up our skill. And with that, we can actually head over for some questing in Felwood. And on our way over there, we of course have to do some flipping scans and reposts. At this point, we're getting closer and closer to 60, so I am trying to invest less in slower moving items like transmog or pets, and keep it more towards MoP trade goods. Alright, so the quest density in Felwood is actually very high, and we can now gather all the materials. But the XP is actually through the roof, and checking it out now, it is officially the WoW anniversary event, so at level 48 we have a 50% XP boost from Blizzard for the next 2 weeks. This will definitely boost our rate of XP, but much like the heirlooms, it'll probably reduce the total gold we make on the way to 60 because we're spending less time leveling. But hey, who doesn't like leveling fast? And there isn't too much to say here about the leveling in Felwood. It's fast and enjoyable, and mixed in with some dungeoning runs for quests, we swiftly get up to level 50. And on my most recent stop at the auction house for reposts, I noticed that we can now smelt thorium. And I also noticed it seems to have a pretty solid markup at the moment, about 55 silver profit per bar. So let's get these 303 thorium ore and craft them up for some easy mining skill and gold. And with the levels rolling in with the XP buff in Felwood, I think we're getting to a point where we can try out one of the best high-level zones for farming. One with one of the simplest routes ever, Ungoro Crater. And into the crater we go. Now, this is a classically fun farming and questing zone, and for this challenge, I did pretty much every quest available here during this leg. We of course had to stop here and there for some dungeons, but a few of the standout quests were definitely surveying the volcano for the hottest spot with Clankenheit, as well as our endeavors with Maximilian of Northshire, slaying the the dragons. But, of course, we can't talk about Ungoro without talking about the Gathering Loop. And I mean that quite literally. Ungoro is a complete and perfect circle, which begs the question, how much gold can we make by running laps? Well, in half an hour, we managed to pull 147 thorium ore, and at around 3 gold to 3 gold 50 for these, that's 470 gold. We also got a good chunk of mithril ore, 15 of them, worth about 47 gold, and a variety of herbs, but not too much honestly. All in all, only worth about 20 gold. And quite a bit of dense stone, which isn't worth much at all, around 4 gold. We also pulled in some assorted gems, which are worth about 20 gold. So all in all, if we extrapolate the half hour to a full hour, that's 1,122 gold per hour, and the highest we have seen on this challenge yet, aside from flipping battle pets at least. So, with only a few levels left in our sails, we can throw a few of these laps in here and there. But the final straw for this challenge was indeed queuing into our first Outland dungeon, Hellfire Ramparts. This gave us so much XP that it basically boosted us straight to 60, and we hit time for the challenge. So what about the results? Well, for that, let's head to the mailbox for one final clear and one last tally, now that we're level 60. And this isn't a bad haul by any means, about 3,289 gold in the books. Within that, it looks like a lot of trade goods are moving, probably flips, some battle pets of course, and even some BOEs like Soulkeeper that we found along the way. Let's get these into the bags and look at our TSM stats. Oh, and by the way, our slash played was 1 day 19 hours on this tune. Now, a bit of that was AFK time while editing, but otherwise, all of our gold farms were advancing the XP on this character. So now, for TSM. And we can see a very satisfying upwards trending graph. And I think you can tell where most of the playtime happened on this tune in about the last week. But our average profit per day was still 520 gold. Not bad. And the breakdowns. Well, from resale, aka flipping, we have a net profit of 6,677 gold, with our single best flip being a tiny goldfish. And we bought this for 199 gold and sold it for 2,850. Followed a little bit further behind by the Mulgore hatchling and a few battle pets that just didn't kind of get on the ledger for some reason. Of course, for the max profit per sale, it's the battle pets that take the cake here. But let's look at our best trade goods as well, because I can sort by numbers sold. And we flipped a total of 1,265 sunstones, with an average buy price of 1 gold 38 silver and an average sale price of 1 gold 63 silver, which is an average profit of 24 silver, or a net profit on sunstone of about 327 gold. Similar story in a lot of the other materials around this 300 gold range of profit, like Cryperiorite, with 39 silver average profit, but then a big one, 230 serpent's eyes with an average profit of 1 gold 53 silver. All in all, I think it's pretty successful. And the total value sold was actually 32,000 gold, and quite high compared to what we have in our bags, but we do have about 12,000 gold of auctions still posted, including some pretty decently priced battle pets. But the rest of our value would indeed be coming from gathering sales. All in all, not quite enough for a WoW token, but for low-level MoP zones, I think this was a win. And as far as I know, some of the best farms in MoP do require max level. But until we reach that, thanks for watching, travelers, and Loktar Ogar.